Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. This is live stream 834. This is your first time joining me. Let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And usually we'll be taking a first look at a game. But all throughout this month, I am sharing reviews each and every day over at thegaminggang.com. And many of these live streams are actually going to be reviews this month. So tonight will be no different. That's right. I am going to share my thoughts about the Hyperborea Player's Manual from Northwind Adventures. That's right. We are going to take a look at this sword and sorcery role-playing game. And I will tell you what I think about it in just a bit. So, of course, once again, as I mentioned, super casual, just hanging out. We're not performing rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. So, but I do want to also point out, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out. Of course, do want to point out that if this is your first time joining me and that you're watching because you want to see my review of the Player's Manual for Hyperborea, please keep in mind we tackle the tabletop gaming news first. So that means we won't be diving into the review for about 30 to maybe 35 minutes. So if you're watching live, relax, put your feet up, kick back, take it easy. We will get to the review. In fact, I've got a lot of cool news tonight as well. You might find something interesting that's worth your while. Of course, if you are watching 30 minutes or more after this stream ends, well, then you can actually use the timestamps to jump right ahead to the review if you don't want to check out the news portion of the show. In fact, those timestamps might even be in the timeline of the video, depending on the device you happen to be watching on. If it's not, then you will find the timestamps in the show notes. So there's that. Lastly, it's a live stream, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. Should also mention you must be a subscriber to the channel to take part in chat, and you must be a subscriber for at least 48 hours. It's another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. So first out tonight, out the gate was John Vogel. Coco B is with us. Mel Winnie is from York, is hanging around. Janet LaFortune, or LaFortune, is with us. And I was going to say, I believe this is Janet's first visit. Says their username is Strongman Simulator, is Blakefling 2015. Can I please give them 1,000 strength and the best pets in the game, please? I have no idea what that is. Kind of get the impression that is somebody just spamming us So we will find out. We'll see. Because we have we have chat moderators who are hanging around, and they don't take kindly to spammers or people just hanging out being oddballs. Kevin R. Smith is with us. The Madman is also here. Yes, the Motor City Madman is one of our chat moderators. And let's see, I think that is everybody I've said hello to. So welcome aboard. Happy Tuesday to everybody. Let's jump right on into the news, because arriving in time for Halloween from 25th Century Games is Ghosts Love Candy 2. And here's what I know. It's a little known fact that ghosts love to eat candy. I thought they like to eat human flesh. No, I guess they eat candy, but they can only eat it one night a year. Halloween. On that night, the ghosts travel through the neighborhood looking for delicious candy. Using their best scare tactics, ghosts will haunt the costumed kiddos to steal their sweet, sweet candy. But they'll have to be careful not to scare those kiddos away. Ghosts just want a candy delight, not to cause them a fright. This new edition expands upon the original version with more kids, 100 total, a new junk set of treats that you do not want to collect, like toothbrushes, rocks, ketchup packets, pennies, etc. Actually, I know somebody who would find those ketchup packets to be a treat. Ugh. But they enjoy them just all by themselves. And there are also new ghosts. Playing the game is easy. Select one of your ghost cards to bid for turn order, then resolve by choosing a kid to haunt, taking their candy, then using their unique ability. Treat score at the end of the game based on your ghost's specific preferences. Keep in mind, Ghosts Love Candy 2 is a revised and expanded new version of, you guessed it, Ghosts Love Candy, which was originally released in 2016. Ghosts Love Candy 2 is for 2 to 6 players ages 8 and up, plays in 20 to 45 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $29.99 when it arrives on October 19th. So that is kind of cutting it close. Kind of cutting it close with the Halloween gameplay there. I like the artwork. I think the artwork is kind of cool. It almost has sort of a 1920s, 1930s Flashman sort of art style to it. A little bit, kind of, sort of. But I do think it looks kind of fun. Could be an interesting game to play with the family. Arriving next month from Pegasus Spiele is Beast. Here's the scoop. Welcome to the Northern Expanse, a place where nature is still unexplored, mystical, and dangerous. When the humans first arrived, they thought they had found an unspoiled paradise filled with bountiful forests, lakes swimming with fish, and cold fresh water flowing from the mountains. But as their settlements expanded and the surrounding forests grew thinner, nature itself pushed back. Great creatures known as beasts emerged, and with their fangs, claws, and mystical powers, they proved an incredible threat to the humans. In order to protect the settlements, humans enlisted specialized hunters tasked with tracking and killing the beasts before too many of their kin perish. The beast uses a deck of direction cards to move over forests, swamps, and caverns, using guile and deceit to hide its track from the hunters. However, whenever a hunter moves over a location where the beast has previously been, a trail appears. Only when a hunter searches a location or the beast itself attacks an unsuspecting target is the beast's actual position revealed. More so, each hunter has but one chance of searching each round, making it a tense and difficult decision. Hunters seldom have full information, whether the trail they're pursuing contains the beast's actual location or if the trail has already gone cold. Each action you perform in this game is done by playing a card from your hand, up to a maximum of 2 cards per turn. That means that if a player wants to search, attack, or move, they need to have a card in their hand that lets them do that. Before each round, both hunters and beasts participate in a draft for the most important cards. All action cards can be used by both beasts and hunters alike. In order to win the game, you either need to cooperate every step of the way if you play as a hunter, or skillfully outmaneuver your opponents if you play as the beast. On their own, hunters are never stronger than the beast. Only when hunters communicate, strategize, and combine their actions can they bring down the beast before it's too late. Beast is for 2 to 6 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 60 to 120 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $64.99 when it arrives in November. Gotta say, this looks quite interesting. Although I am curious, and I think I know the answer already, I'm kind of curious if the beast is able to devour hunters. So it only seems like that would be fair, seeing that the hunters are trying to kill the beast, and the beast is essentially just nature fighting back against the encroaching humans. I'm kind of curious, but I get the feeling that you can't. So yeah, it's Euro games. Euro games, yeah, people get a little, oh no. John Vogel just points out that Aaron Judge just hit his 62nd home run. Sweet. Very cool. I've been rooting for Aaron Judge to break Maris's record. I was starting to think maybe it wasn't going to happen because they're basically coming into tonight. There were only 2 games left. Anyway, who else we got? Kathy Evans has swung into chat. 245 Trioxin is with us, as is JP Falconer Honor. It's been a while since we've seen JPF, so welcome aboard. Thanks for swinging on in. So, Testy Trekkie is also in chat with us. So chat is off and running. Very nice. Very nice. So let's jump on into some role-playing game news, because Paizo Inc. has revealed 2 big releases, which are slated for May of 2023. That's kind of out there a little bit. I always get a kick out of how Paizo will say, oh, hey, 8 months from now, this is coming out. I know May isn't 8 months away, but it's, 6 months out there. Anyway, here's the skinny on Pathfinder, the Enmity Cycle, and Starfinder, Ports of Call. The Pathfinder adventure, the Enmity Cycle, is an exciting low-level adventure featuring Thuvia, one of the most intriguing and little-detailed nations in the Pathfinder setting, revealing never-before-told secrets of this important inner-sea political power and the people who inhabit it. The Enmity Cycle is a deluxe Pathfinder adventure for 4th-level characters, on the cusp of completing a grand project that would wow audiences and build solidarity between the 5 squabbling cities of Thuvia. A trio of renowned artists suddenly go missing. Who could be behind such treachery, and why? Explore the Thuvian city of La Masara as your characters investigate the disappearance and prevent a poisoned performance from shaking the desert nation. This adventure also includes a gazetteer of Thuvia and a selection of new magic and monsters. Pathfinder Adventure Enmity Cycle will carry an MSRP of $24.99. Then we have Starfinder Ports of Call, the latest hardcover resource for the, you guessed it, Starfinder role-playing game, which brings expanded character options and setting details that add depth to the game's weird and wonderful universe. In the wake of the upheaval to the interstellar travel caused by the galaxy-wide drift crisis, Countless new worlds await exploration by eager and opportunistic starfarers. Ports of Call, the latest hardcover resource for Starfinder, presents 10 highly detailed spaceports and settlements across all space, from drifters and on Absalom Station to the rebuilt megacity of Izadamar in the Scoured Stars to the wonders of the theme park planet of Galarian World. Other featured locales include a collection of warships called the Bastion that protects against the insectile hordes of the alien swarm, or the starship port of Skydock on Bierces. Each location provides area maps, regional overviews and customs, local character options like equipment and spells, copious adventure hooks, and more, offering a huge selection of interesting sites for stopovers. I almost said stockovers. Yes, English, Chef. How about speaking English? It offers a huge selection of interesting sites for stopovers or long-term stays. Along with all of this, Ports of Call also features an overview and poster-sized map of the Starfinder galaxy, new rules for easier and faster hyperspace travel along drift lanes, a new phenomenon which comes from the drift crisis. 4 new player character species, including giants, sentient ooze-like settlements, the gaseous Thierce, and the reptilian Zolgoths of Lost Galarian. Expanded downtime rules, new starship options, a cargo subsystem, new NPCs, a score of new side job adventures, and much more. The hardcover Starfinder Ports of Call will carry an MSRP of $46.99. Keep in mind, these are arriving in May. There are a few other items that are being released as well. In fact, there's the chapter of the Pathfinder Adventure Path that'll be going on at that time. So you will be seeing those as well. We've got a couple of flip mats that are also slated. If you're curious what is coming in May of next year, the news piece will be out tomorrow morning on thegaminggang.com. William Hell Has Eyes is with us once again. Tessie Trekkies asking, isn't it Sprechen de Dutch? Isn't that how it's usually pronounced? Or Sprechen de Dutch? No, I don't, obviously enough. I am, of course. So Tessie Trekkie says, a performance shaking a nation, the King in Yellow? Ooh, I think that would shake more than just the nation. There is a bundle of holding that is currently running. It features the Infinity role-playing game from Modiphius Entertainment. Here's the deets on the deal. Agent. Revived from December 2019, this Infinity role-playing game bundle brings back, you guessed it, Infinity, the Modiphius Entertainment tabletop role-playing game of spacefaring adventure in the human sphere and beyond. Based on Corvus Belli's popular Infinity Miniatures skirmish game, the Infinity RPG casts you as Bureau Noir law enforcement agents undertaking missions on a dozen worlds. Track pirates amid the shattered planetoids of Human Edge, delve the oceans of Varuna, duck gunfire in the twisted emerald jungles of Paradiso, pursue rogue AIs through nomad motherships. Meanwhile, from beyond the human sphere, the alien combined army has invaded, threatening to destroy humanity. This bargain-priced revival once again gives you the Infinity role-playing game core rulebook and many early supplements, everything you need for spacefaring adventure in the style of Appleseed, Ghost in the Shell, and Richard K. Morgan's cyberpunk novel, Altered Carbon. Although Appleseed and Ghost in the Shell are not actually spacefaring. So, gotta be honest, I did not watch Altered Carbon, so I don't know, but I thought that was kind of a cyberpunk show as well. And of course, based on the novel. Then now, for just $14.95, you get all 3 titles in the starter collection with a retail value of $57 as DRM-free PDFs, including the full-color 528-page Infinity RPG core book, the scenario collection Adventures in the Human Sphere, and the GM screen with its Code Infinity mini-adventure. And if you pay more than the current threshold price of $26.18, you'll level up and also get the entire bonus collection with 4 more titles worth an additional $59, including the 196-page Infinity RPG Game Master's Guide, the faction source books Iranda and Haxislam, taking a stab at those, and the full-length adventure Quantronic Heat. These savings will run through October 17th, and 10% of your payment after gateway fees will be donated to the not-for-profit initiative co-founded by Modiphius Entertainment owner Chris Birch. Roll versus Evil. Yes. We'll point out there is another Infinity RPG bundle that is going on currently as well. So this is the one you would start off with if you don't have the Infinity role-playing game. And then the other one has more recent, I believe, supplements as well. Gotta say, I think the Infinity role-playing game is actually relatively popular. If I remember right, I thought it's in Spain that it's a big deal. For one, I believe Corvus Belli is out of Spain. So that may have something to do with it because they make the miniatures game. So I don't know. But got to admit, there's always a lot of stuff that gets released for Infinity. So it is a well-supported role-playing game. So kind of cool. Nice deal there you can jump on into. So Quantum Phase Dragon has popped on in. Good to see you back. So asking if any chance of a Space Station Zero review sometime. I have pointed out before, I only personally review physical books. So I don't review PDFs. But if somebody wanted me to review a physical copy of it, I'd be more than happy to. But I've had people ask about a variety of different role-playing games, and I tell them all the time, I only do video reviews now, so I only review physical items because I say it all the time, just reviewing PDFs, kind of boring. It's, I mean, for viewers is what I'm saying. It's kind of boring for viewers just to watch a few images. It'd be like watching an entire review like this, where you're only getting a few images from the books, or in this case, the book covers. All right. Final news piece of the evening, now available in print and PDF from Raging Swan Press, is the Dread Thingonomicon. And here's what I know about the tome. Are you a busy GM? Does session prep take too long? Do you never have time to design the cool little details that bring your game to life? Fear not. That's where the Dread Thingonomicon comes in. Crammed full of system-neutral themed lists, flavorful NPCs, and more, the Dread Thingonomicon is designed to give you, the time-crunched GM, the tools to effortlessly add flavorsome adventure and detail to your game. If your campaign features abnormal lesser undead, alchemist laboratories, ancient necropolises, archives and libraries, bandits and brigands, besieged castles, black dragon lairs, blue dragon lairs, bustling marketplaces, corpses, creepy graveyards, crypts and catacombs, cultist lairs, curio shops and pawnbrokers, dark caverns, fairs and festivals, fallen dwarven holds, fanes of evil, fanes of good, farming villages, vacant jungles, forts on the borderland, ghostly hauntings, goblin lairs, green dragon lairs, haunted houses, henchfolk and hirelings, hill giant steadings, items most wondrous, kobold warrens, liches lairs, local landmarks, lunatic asylums, which I'm going to end up in once I finish reading this huge list. Merchant caravans, minions of evil, necromancers' lairs, nobles' manor houses, noisome marshes, noisome sewers, ocean voyages, orc villages, red dragon lairs, roads, ruined castles, ruined cities, ruined monasteries, ruined wizard towers, seedy taverns, shadowed borderlands, slavers' compounds, smugglers' villages, smugglers' lairs, snow and ice, subterranean mines, sun-scorched deserts, sunken ships, thievish doings, torture chambers, travelers' inns, troublesome treasures, urban chases, urban events, urban landmarks, urban oddities, vampires' castles, war-ravaged lands, white dragon lairs, the wilderness camps, windswept moors, wizards' towers, and wrecked ships, and whose doesn't? The Dread Thingamicon is for you. Wow. Comprising the entirety of the 20 Things line, the Dread Thingamicon weighs in at 476 pages of content and is the culmination of 7 years of design. Use the system-neutral material herein either before or during play, and bask in your player's adulation. Wish I had that. This product is a dual format PDF and comprises 2 versions, one optimized for printing and use on a normal computer, and one optimized for use on a mobile device, such as an iPad. This book is compatible with every edition of the world's most popular role-playing game. Once again, the 476-page hardcover, that's right, you can get a hardcover of it, with the PDF, can be had from DriveThruRPG for $49.95, or you can just score the PDF alone for $27.95. Cool beans. I have not had an opportunity to really look at too much from Raging Swan Press. I think I've seen a couple of PDFs over the years. It always looks like they've got some pretty interesting kind of OSR themed releases, though. And they release quite a lot. I know they've got their 20 things. I think they've got like dungeon dressings. They do adventures. They do like locales, like gazetteers. So quite a lot going on there. And I got to say, that was one hell of a list of stuff. Mr. Eddie T is with us, as is Kabuki Kid. Double K is in the house. William asks if I've reviewed Viking Death Squad. I have not. I have not reviewed that. Once again, I'm not sure. Is that, I guess, yeah, that is a physical book. Because I thought maybe it's from, if I remember correctly, I thought that's from Exalted Funeral here in the U.S. So Kabuki Kid says, yes, Raging Swan does do a lot of little books like that. Wilderness books, dungeon dressing, etc., etc. Cool deal. That is it for the news tonight. And of course, I just wrapped up with a news piece about something you can pick up over at DriveThruRPG. Don't forget, the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit DriveThruRPG, by all means, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, If you find gaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang. There's a little banner. That's actually, I think it's like a side box on thegaminggang.com. And you can make a small donation. And thankfully, there are fine folks out there who either use one or both, the banners or paypal.me. Thank you very kindly. Much appreciated. All right, that is it for the news. Wow, zip through that relatively quickly. I thought that was going to take longer, especially that Raging Swan Press. I was like, holy cow. I was like, man, that's going to take like 5 minutes. So, oh, yes. Okay, so Viking Death Squad through Runehammer, the fine folks who do index card role-playing, which I think is pretty cool. I probably personally would not utilize index card. It's too light for my personal taste. But one thing that I really do like about it are some of the ideas that it floats out there. I think are very, very cool. But no, I have not checked that out. Modiphius is a little tricky as far as review copies of stuff. They are a company that they seem to set aside a small number of review copies. So I don't always expect to receive review copies, especially of stuff that's like third party, really, that Modiphius is publishing. And of course, as I say that, you may recall, I just received the starter set for the Fallout role-playing game. So, and this actually showed up out of the blue. I don't think I remember this heading my way. I don't remember seeing an email. I think it just showed up. So very nice. We will be taking a look at that very soon. Alrighty then. So tonight I am going to be sharing my review of the Hyperborea Player's Manual from Northwind Adventures. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope...
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
The cannibals are boiling us in Wilkins coffee.
Yeah, so what?
I was beginning to think you'd never join me in a cup of Wilkins.
Monsters do have their place. In the zoo, in your nightmares, in the deep, in your favorite horror movies. But not in your living room, on your TV. Don't let pay TV be the monster in your living room. Pay TV and cable TV companies are seeking the right to charge you for the very programs you now get free. If you want to stop pay TV and save free television, sign the petition in the lobby of this theater. Let your lawmakers know how you feel in the fight against pay TV and cable TV.
Wonkins and Wilkins, no! You know, it's funny. I hate when every once in a while, the program that I use to do the stream, it's OBS Studio. I hit tab so it'll take me over to the chat window for YouTube so I can say howdy to everybody. And I start typing and it doesn't catch the tab key that I hit. And of course, I start hitting keys and it's like hotkeys. And it's like, I did not set up those hotkeys. Where all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're showing you the end of the show. It's like, oh, here's the outro. Damn you, OBS. Although I shouldn't complain. It's absolutely free. And it is a pretty damn good program. So there is that. All right. We just had Deja Vu join us in chat. You know, I almost have a sense of deja vu from yesterday. I don't know why. Hopefully I've said hello to everybody who is hanging out in chat. Yes, 245 Trioxin says, hard to beat OBS Studios price tag, though. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, I love the monsters of pay television. Ooh. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. All right, let's move on. Because tonight I am going to be sharing my review of the Hyperborea Player's Manual from Northwind Adventures. It is written by Jeffrey Talanian. Hopefully I am pronouncing that correctly. With a slew of artists, we will take a peek at the credit page in a moment. The 326-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $50. You can grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG. Get ready for $12. And right now, there is a sale going on, and Hyperborea is part of it. And you can get the PDF for $8 and change, which is a fantastic deal. So there is that. Swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the Player's Manual for Hyperborea. So this is the third edition of Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. I guess the decision was made to come out with a title that rolled off the tongue a little easier than that. So that's why this is now called Hyperborea. Should mention that this is not a review copy. This is actually from a Kickstarter fulfillment. I backed the Kickstarter after a fan of the Gaming Gang actually sent the funds for me to back this Kickstarter. I thought that was really wild. And I thought that was very, very cool of them. So I have already done a first look video. So we did a page through a while back. And I'm going to share my review of the Player's Manual. Essentially, there are two books that you would need if you are going to run Hyperborea. And if you were going to play it, you only need this. Because the referee's manual is essentially all Game Master facing material, whereas the Player's Manual is for both players and GMs. There's nothing on the back, so really nothing for me to read like I usually do. So one of the things I will mention is I really do like the matte finish of the cover here. I think it is really nicely done. And unlike some of the other role-playing games that I've run across that have that matte finish, this cover actually looks like it'll hold up. Because a lot of times I've noticed with the matte finish on some RPG books, it kind of like wears off really, really easily. And got to be honest, makes the books look like shit. It really does. So I mean, if you put it in your like backpack or something like that, this will hold up. Some of those other books won't. The paper stock, really, really like that as well. It is also a matte finish, and it is a nice thickness also, which I seem to recall mentioning when we did the page through. So I've got a lot of artists here. Loads and loads of artists. We have a table of contents, which is kind of hidden over here as well. So first time I started looking through this, I was like, where's the table of contents? It's right here. I was looking for a full page of that. So a few things should mention. I'm going to be staying picture in picture up here. So that means that I'll be cutting off a little bit of the upper left portion of this hardcover as we page through. Speaking of paging through, we're not going to look at each and every page, but I do want to give you a good feel for the player's manual. And plus, we did a page through previously. We didn't look at every page then either, but we don't need to be digging too deeply in. So we're going to get a section. It's going to kind of start off, give us an idea of, what is the setting? What is role-playing game? What do you need? The usual stuff. So Hyperborea is a sword and sorcery fantasy role-playing game. And you can see that it really takes inspiration from the works of H.P. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith, who I have actually finally gotten an opportunity to start listening to more audiobooks of Clark Ashton Smith's stories, including the Hyperborea cycle or series of stories. I haven't finished those yet, though. I gotta be honest, I'm a little surprised that it sticks to Vancian magic, though. And yes, I get it. Jack Vance, Dying World. I get it. Appendix N. But this really doesn't seem like it draws a lot of inspiration from the Dying World. And yes, it is a bit of, I don't want to say a gonzo setting, but it is a science fantasy sort of setting for the world of Hyperborea. So it is not a setting that has, halflings and elves and dwarves and all these various different races for you to choose from for characters to play. Now, instead, you will have racial aspects of different cultures that you can play as for your character race or culture. The game, to me, also draws a lot of inspiration from Michael Moorcock's Elric series and Hawkmoon. To me, kind of reminded me a little bit of Hawkmoon, although it's been decades since I read that series. So MC is with us in chat. MC points out that the artwork looks insanely good, reminiscent of Dungeon Crawl Classics. I gotta be honest, I'm not super keen on it. I don't want to say all the artwork, but for an example like this art here, it's like, okay, it's fine in my opinion. And yes, I get it. This is essentially one person's efforts for this book. Of course, we've got all the different artists in that, but Jeffrey Talanian is pretty much the mastermind behind Hyperborea. So I understand. I'm not expecting to be checking out page after page of artwork that I would see in a Paizo product or Wizards of the Coast or Cubicle 7 or Modiphius or anything along those lines. but some of the artwork's a little too amateurish. And I guess if it was all like this, I wouldn't really have much of an issue, but there's also some artwork that's really, really excellent grayscale artwork as well. In my opinion, one of the biggest selling points of Hyperborea is that it is derived from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, as well as the Holmes Blue Box D&D. So if you're a fan of those games, or if you would really like to play a more modernized version of AD&D, this is something that is really going to appeal to you. Also, the subclasses that we have for the character classes are excellent. And each one is very unique, makes for very unique characters as well. So MC says, yes, it's meant to evoke 1E. Correct. That is correct. So MC's talking about, that's the old school feel. I think he's talking about the artwork. And like I said, I get it. It's not like I'm giving this a huge ding on my review score because of the artwork. All I'm saying is I am not keen on a good amount of the artwork. It's just kind of my thing. That's it. Don't worry about it. But I'll give you an example here where you really get that old school vibe. So we got the thief. We've got a breakdown of the thief and their abilities. Of course, we are looking at our standard old school attributes. So we've got our strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. But you'll also see we have like progressive thief abilities, climb, decipher script, discern noise, hide, manipulate traps, move silently, open locks, pickpockets, read scrolls. And then we have everything's based on a 12-sided die. So we're not looking at percentile. We see a lot of the different classes using different dice to resolve special abilities that that class has. And that really, really harkens back to the blue box D&D, AD&D. Another aspect I think is kind of cool. See, for an example, I think that artwork is fantastic. I think that artwork is really well done. And then it's sort of like, okay. That's it. That's it. That's all I'm going to say about the artwork. Negative. Right? From here on out, whatever I run across, if it's something I think is really cool, I will say. Anyway, one of the other things that I think is cool too is that we also have information for each of these subclasses and like their starting equipment, starting pack. I thought that was very cool as well. I don't know about you folks out there, but I find when players are rolling up their characters, I find like purchasing equipment to be really boring, especially first time out. Sort of like, oh man, really? Okay. I really do like how each of these subclasses do have their starting pack. It's an option. Players don't have to take that, but it is an option as the game master if you want to utilize that rather than sitting there, everybody, counting their pennies, see what equipment they can get. Mr. Eddie T says, yes, they agree. MC says it is time consuming too. Yes, it is. It is really, in my opinion, rather boring. Another piece of artwork I think is very cool that I like quite a bit. For the witch. So a good amount of page count is going to be for the various different classes and their subclasses. So if you are looking for a role-playing game that's going to have that OSR feel, but you're not going to be kind of like locked into the fighter, thief, cleric, wizard, this is definitely something to take a peek at as well. Something that does also harken back to the old days, as William rocks out, thanks for joining us, William, is the alignment and the combat. We'll get into the combat a little bit later. It's towards the end of the book. But here we've got the alignment: lawful good, chaotic good, lawful evil, chaotic evil, and neutral. There is no neutral good. There is no neutral evil. It is neutral. So there is that. And I agree with that. We also have skills. Not a huge skill system as far as the breakdown of the various different skills. Skills are more like your background before you became an adventurer, which we've seen with a variety of role-playing games in the past as well. Something else I think is very cool is we get to see artwork, drawings of the various different weapons. This is something that, off the top of my head, I seem to recall Adventurer Conqueror King had as well, that I really did like. This reminds me a little bit of Adventurer Conqueror King because it was also kind of going for a sword and sorcery kind of vibe. But I find this is more a science fantasy sword and sorcery kind of setting and kind of direction that Hyperborea aims toward, whereas Adventurer Conqueror King felt more like Conan stories only. Well, maybe not only, but that kind of vibe. Whereas something like Hyperborea, I could see you utilizing this even without the setting itself, utilizing this for a variety of sword and sorcery style adventures or adventuring campaigns. If you want to do Fritz Leiber, I could easily see you pulling that off as well. So we get a lot of info about, as I mentioned before, the classes, the subclasses. We also get equipment, different kind of vehicles, ships, and so on and so forth. Then the next section, which also takes up a good amount of page space, is magic and discussion of spells. It is Vancian magic. I am kind of surprised by that because, as I mentioned previously, Vancian magic, sure. Dying Earth, okay, yes, I get it. And, you know, when you're channeling AD&D and Holmes D&D, sure, you got Vancian magic, but Vancian magic, at least in my opinion, isn't swords and sorcery. Swords and sorcery, there isn't much magic. It is very low magic, and magic tends to corrupt. Magic is very difficult to find. It's very difficult to learn spells. Now, in Dying Earth, in that setting, in those stories, magic isn't, everywhere, but there are quite a lot of magic users. And of course, magic is something that is guarded and people don't have access to. And in fact, many of the Dying Earth stories kind of revolve around characters attempting to get their hands on more magic. So Kabuki Kid says they wish that old school AD&D had images of all the weapons in the original books. And MC points out that the second edition Arms and Equipment did. Yeah. As Double K points out, the later books did give more picks, and that was with everything. So we've got our spell descriptions for both our arcane and deific, I guess we'll say, magic. And I like the way the spells are presented. When we take a look at the referee's manual, I'll talk about how the monsters are presented, the creatures are presented. I like that as well. We have a nice chunk of information. It's not just a bullet point, which I don't mind bullet points, depending on the kind of magic system that a game's using. But in something that's, trying to harken back to the original days of D&D and AD&D, I really do like the fact that we get, a paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs, and everything is very concise. As far as the writing style, I found the writing style to be very interesting. I like it. It's not overly technical, but then it's not overly conversational either. So I've been reviewing the Castles and Crusades core books. And although I guess really the Castle Keeper's Guide isn't a core book, but I did review that second after the Player's Handbook. And that does have a more kind of conversational style to it. And this kind of reminds me, or I guess I would say, to me, this feels almost like old school essentials, but fleshed out so that you have some reasoning behind things. I like old school essentials quite a lot. I think it's fantastic. But one thing it is not geared towards first timers. It is not geared towards newbies to role-playing games. I could easily see someone who's not very familiar with playing or running role-playing games really settling into this very easily. So we got a lot of spells. As you can see, not a ton of artwork throughout the spell section there. And then we start getting into some shorter sections, which kind of remind me quite a bit of like AD&D, where it's kind of like concise, to the point. It's not going into tons and tons in detail. So we get a discussion of adventures and hirelings, henchmen. See, now to me, this really is an old school sort of piece of art here as well. So we get some, discussion of wilderness adventures, mechanics for wilderness adventures, and then we get into combat and the combat matrix. So if we go back to our characters, let's see, let's get a martial characters. Let's see what we get. Pyromancer, necromancer. It's like I'm getting here. Okay. We'll use the ranger as an example. So you get their combat matrix. So that is something that, once again, harkens way back to the day. So you have fighting ability. And there you go. Testy Trekkie says, Thack, oh God, no. MC says, it irks me when OSC gets recommended so much for first timers because they'd be better off just picking up the Moldvay books on eBay. I agree. I completely agree with you. And I've mentioned that in the past as well, that if you're looking at, like, say, let's just use old school essentials as an example, just the classic rules, right? Not the advanced fantasy, but just the classic rules tome, the 1 volume. And if you are looking to understand how to run that, I tell people all the time, go online. I'm almost positive that Dungeon Masters Guild has the Moldvay basic and expert books available as PDFs. Get those, because it'll teach you how to play the game. It'll teach you how to run the game, something that Old School Essentials really does not do. Old School Essentials cleans up the rules, makes a presentation very easy to understand, but it does not walk you through the process. And I interviewed Gavin Norman a while back, and that was something that we did talk about in the interview. And he said that, he keeps kicking around the idea of putting together a small book that is kind of a how to play and how to run Old School Essentials. So let's see. Kabuki Kid says, Thaco never bothered me. It didn't bother me either, really. So we've got our combat matrix. So we have a standard combat matrix, and then we have various different characters with theirs. And it's all basically fighting ability, things like that. Kevin says, Thaco isn't really hard. It's just counterintuitive. That I would agree with. So we get a section about combat here. Some optional rules as well. As you can see, we get critical hits and misses, but everything that we're expecting to see with initiative and various different actions you can take. It is pretty free flowing. It is not going to be something that's going to bog down with, oh, well, these are the actions you're allowed to do. So I like that. Once again, it's old school. We do have our saving throws, our spell resistance, and then we're just kind of finishing up with some just little random rules here, like madness, sanity, and poison. Then something I thought was kind of cool is we start looking at these various different appendices. We've got stuff where it's like name generators. Thought that was kind of cool. Celtic names, Ixian names, Moorish names. And these are your races that I was talking about, where pretty much all in all, outside of like monsters and that, your player characters are humans. But they can come from different cultures as well. Kevin's talking about don't give up the ship. Yeah, right. That was Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson's first collaboration because they were both war gamers. I mean, I don't know. I assume everybody out there already knows D&D evolved from war games. So there was a documentary that was about, it was mainly about Dave Arneson and how D&D evolved from kind of role-playing the various like Kriegspiel sort of games. I thought it was okay. I thought it dragged a bit, and it really actually didn't go into enough detail about the early days of D&D. It was more along the lines of, well, this is what was going on before the early days of D&D. So we get some domain play information here as well, strongholds and such. And there is our 324 pages of Hyperborea. Another aspect of this I like with the matte finish is some of these matte finishes really show off the fingerprints immediately from holding the book. This, not so bad. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera because I'm going to share some final thoughts and give this a review score. All right, so I was talking about the artwork. I think the artwork's hit or miss. That's basically it. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of hit or miss. But I'm not going to really hold it against Hyperborea that much. To me, the reason why I mention the artwork is because this was a pretty damn successful Kickstarter. Some of this artwork, especially like the colored plates, I've had people tell me that artwork's recycled from the previous edition and that they felt that the previous edition, which I have not seen, had more traditional artwork and had more of a standard style of artwork. And this new edition, the artwork has some of the artwork, not all of them, all of it has more of a cartoonish feel to it. And I had mentioned it kind of has a bit of an amateurish style to it. Regardless, I don't really care that much about artwork in a rule book, right? If it was like a background book or if it was an adventure, it would probably be a little more concerning. Anyway, I like a lot that's going on in Hyperborea. I love the subclass. I think, as I mentioned, I think that really is the selling point of this system, is for the player characters to take on the sorts of characters they want to take on. So it isn't just a fighter. It isn't just a thief. It isn't just a wizard. Now, of course, granted, sure, if you're playing any sort of retro clone that is, kind of hearkening back to first edition AD&D, yeah, you're going to have a lot more classes, but not as many as you're going to find in Hyperborea. I also feel that the way the rules are designed, it really feels like it is aimed at a swords and sorcery, or swords and sorcery / science fantasy sort of game. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times you'll find a game that's like, oh, it's swords and sorcery, and it's just a retro clone of Basic Expert. But it's like, oh, but it's sword and sorcery. There's no real feel of a Fritz Leiber sort of setting, or a Robert E. Howard or Clark Ashton Smith kind of setting. This really does feel like the rules are designed that way. I do disagree with the sort of fancy and magic. I would have liked to have seen maybe a new kind of magic system be utilized. But then again, it wouldn't be hearkening back to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in that case. But I will mention, I don't think that this would be the first role-playing game that I would recommend somebody pick up. I would say that it would probably be a good idea if players and game masters had a little bit of experience before diving into Hyperborea, especially because if, let's say, they're 5e D&D players, they're just used to, it's pretty much, D20. Every once in a while, I roll other dice for damage and things. Here, it's a bit different, because using the different skills, you're going to use different dice. So there is kind of a different mentality there as well. There's even an approach where it's like, kind of anything that you're doing, any kind of action, even if it's relatively mundane, you could conceivably be rolling a die to see if you succeed or not, which normally these days in role-playing games, you don't do that. Also feel that there's a lot of value in Hyperborea, and I personally think, especially with it being on sale right now, anyone who has any interest in an AD&D or a Holmes blue box D&D style of swords and sorcery role-playing, you got to pick it up in PDF for $8 and change. Definitely recommend just about anybody picking it up, because I got to be honest, there's a lot of great ideas you can steal from this to utilize with any fantasy role-playing game. So that's something that's in Hyperborea's favor as well. All in all, I think it's really impressive what Jeffrey Tlanian has done with this role-playing game. I mean, it really is kind of a one-person show, and there is a lot that I really, really dig about Hyperborea. I'm not super keen on the combat matrices or matrices, however it's, we're going to pronounce it. But I could get by that. I could live with it. It wouldn't be that big a deal. So MC's asking, how's the paper quality? I talked about it a little bit when I first was opening up the book. The paperweight is really nicely done. The binding is well done as well. Well done as well. It is also very well done. We've got a couple of bookmarks. This book will hold up. this will certainly hold up. It'll hold up far better than Wizards of the Coast books would. Gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. I could see the Hyperborea Player's Manual taking some wear and tear, whereas the D&D books, not so much, especially that the paperweight's really, really thin. All right. On a scale of 0 to 10, I do recommend Hyperborea. I think it is really, really well done. Of course, I am going to share my review of the referee's manual shortly as well. I think you really do need both, not just the player's manual. But I give it an 8.5 out of 10. It may not necessarily be my go-to retro clone, but it's pretty damn good. And those of you out there who are looking to channel Robert E. Howard and Clark Ashton Smith and Fritz Leiber, I think you'll appreciate the work that's been put into Hyperborea. All right, that is it for tonight's show. Kevin says if you click on the Gaming Gang ad to buy Hyperborea, the banner ad is for drive-thru. It's on the side now. Yeah, I was going to say, it is part of the, what is it, creature feature? I think it's like creature feature sale that's going on. Sale's going on for, I think, another 10 days. Speaking of DriveThruRPG, it is October, so that means, fingers crossed, once again, we will see their Halloween special, their tricks and treats, which now that's just treats, where they had the little scavenger hunt for the little icons for free downloads of stuff. There's usually some pretty cool stuff, and I usually search everything out and publish an article with all the links there for you. So keep an eye on that. We'll see what happens with the freebies. Flaming Heron's with us. Good to see you, Flaming Heron. And Jason Bradley had popped in to chat as well. If I missed anybody, I apologize. You know, I always try to say hello as people swing on into chat. All right, on tomorrow's show, I am going to share my review of the Southlands World Book from my friends over at Kobold Press. That's right. We're going to dive on in to a very interesting setting book, and we'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. All right. If you were watching live, thank you very, very kindly. Of course, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't, and if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my recent review of the Castles and Crusades Castle Keeper's Guide. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find on the YouTube channel, including the Gaming Gang October Spooktacular 2022, which continues tonight with an episode of Hall of Fantasy. I bet many of you out there have never heard of that. All right. Anyway, if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you took part in chat, much appreciated, because you're not only keeping me company, you're keeping each other company also. But I know not everybody gets an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. I appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your busy life to watch any of the videos here on the channel. All right, everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it happens to be in your neck of the woods. I'll be back tomorrow. And as always, here's hoping each and every one of you always get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.
Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, that's okay. You don't have to leave just yet. In fact, why don't you subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel right here, or take a peek at the latest live stream, or even find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks again for watching.